Hi everybody, it's Julia, your trusted travel expert from Travel Julia's Way, helping you have cliche-free travel. And it is spring break time. It is finally spring in North Carolina. It's warm enough to be without a jacket. A couple flowers are blooming. Some of the cherry trees are just beautiful. I've got one in my front yard that I wish I could film under. It's just dreamy. And that means it's spring break time. And of course, you know, you probably already either are on spring break or planned your spring break for this year. But I was talking with someone and they were saying like, God, I'm already looking at next year because I'm so tired of the same old, same old. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I thought I would kind of give you a few ideas of something different to do than maybe your normal. And your normal is either you don't do anything because you're so excited just to have a few days to relax at home, or maybe you always go to like a beach somewhere, you know, Mexico, the Caribbean or something like that, which is super popular, especially with those with kids. And so that's not something I do. And so I wanted to give you a couple of ideas for things that my clients have done or I think are really great ideas. So I have two different sets of clients that are doing road trips around the US this year, which I think is a really great idea. Both of them are doing it in either temperate or warm places. One is doing a southern Florida, so like Miami and the Keys and Naples. That's a really great road trip. You could also loop in Orlando if you wanted to do the parks too, depending on what your kids are into. That does make it a little bit longer. But the first three, you know, you can drive one day and spend a couple nights in this one place, and they're doing all kinds of fun things like deep sea fishing and swimming with the dolphins and golf and just, you know, exploring Miami, all kinds of really cool things to do in southern Florida. And it is warm enough this time of year. Maybe, you know, maybe not to swim in beach every day, but it is nice and warm. The other road trip that I've got some clients doing that I think is a great idea for spring is the coast. So LA to San Francisco or vice versa. They did going south. And that gives you all kinds of things you can do. Obviously, San Francisco weather is really temperate. Well, California weather is really temperate. So, you know, it's never going to be really cold there, and it's never really going to be very hot either, especially in the spring. And they did everything from like dune buggies on the beach to watching a filming, like a TV show film in LA. You know, Universal Studios is also in LA. San Francisco, obviously, you've got Alcatraz, you've got, you know, riding a bike over a Golden Gate Bridge, all kinds of really fun things to do in San Francisco. And then in between, you've got Big Sur and Monterey with the Monterey Bay Aquarium, beautiful views, great drives. Hearst Castle is another highlight of that route. If you've got time, Santa Barbara. I mean, it's an awesome trip, and it's really great to do in spring. Another thing that's an idea for spring, if you want something different, dude ranches, not in Montana or Colorado. Those are probably going to be still too cold. But in southern Arizona, there's some dude ranches down there that spring is really high season for them, because otherwise in summer it gets too hot. And so that is an idea if you wanted something totally different. But if you want to go abroad or take your kids abroad for the first time, there are some opportunities. Like I said, I don't really do Mexico and the Caribbean. There are amazing resorts. That's really great, especially if you don't have, you know, more than 4 or 5 nights. But if you do have 6, 7, 8 nights, and you know, if you've got a little bit of extra time, then somewhere like Costa Rica could be really fun. Do a little bit of beach and jungle, lots of adventure opportunity, from whitewater rafting to zip lining, you know, kayaking through the mangrove forest, all kinds of fun stuff in Costa Rica. My favorite, and I'll always mention this when I talk about family trips in general, but one of my favorite things would be to do a Galapagos trip. Now, the Galapagos is better if you've got more like 8 or 9 days. There are week-long trips, but it takes a long time to get there. So if you have 8 or 9 days, the Galapagos is great. Spring is a great time to go. I mean, it's out in the middle of the ocean, so it's pretty much temperate all year round. And it's, oh, there goes my dog, apologies. But the Galapagos is such a great family activity for kids, you know, from 8 years old up to 16 or 17 even. It's got such cool nature. It's so totally safe. You know, you can do either cruise or you can do hotel hopping. Cruises are a little easier. You've got small boats, you've got large ships, there's so many different options for the Galapagos, and it doesn't have to be, $10,000 per person. It does have a little bit more affordable options, although it's not cheap. So those are some options that are still sort of in our hemisphere, or our side of the world. But if you've got a week and you want to go somewhere that's maybe not in high season, Europe could be a really good idea. I've got some clients that are going to Europe, but they're smart because they worked with me, and they're just going to one place. Because, like I said, you probably have 6-7 nights to go to Europe. You really only want to go to one city and then do some day trips. So London and Paris, those are both great options that you can spend. There's plenty to do in those cities. And then also lots of day trips, which I've talked about. Ireland is probably not going to be the best weather. But again, if you've got rain boots and a rain jacket and a scarf and buy some woolly hats and gloves there, you're totally fine, and it's totally shoulder season, so you won't have crowds or high prices. Southern Europe would be beautiful this time of year. So, a week in Lisbon or a week in Madrid, a week in Barcelona. You can maybe even take a couple days to go to the islands off the coast of Barcelona, Mallorca or Menorca or Ibiza. And spring would be a beautiful time to see those parts. Italy, I don't hear of as much in spring, but I imagine especially southern Italy, from Rome down to like Puglia, which is the new hot region, or Sicily, those would be beautiful this time of year. I think if you get much further than that in Europe, it's going to be too long of a flight or too much of a pain to get over there for about a week-long trip. So you want to definitely try and keep it to Eastern Europe, where you have easy flight connections. Germany is an idea, but it may be a little cold. Germany tends to be a little cooler. And of course, skiing is always an option in the spring. They are still skiing in Colorado right now, it's almost April. So they are still skiing in Colorado, and they are still skiing in the Alps. And it's a wonderful time to go. And so that's always an option. You do need to have usually a good 7 nights to be able to do that. And one final idea is Iceland. And I'm not saying that March, April is the best time to go to see Iceland. I think that going either in deeper winter or deeper summer is going to be better weather-wise. But I do have a friend that went in March, and you still can see the Northern Lights in March in Iceland. So that's an idea, and that's also really easy to get to from the East Coast. And you can go, if you only have 5 nights, you can definitely make Iceland happen. So those are a few off the beaten track ideas for spring break. Obviously it's too late this year, but I wanted to get the wheels turning for next year. And one thing about planning spring break, I do recommend that you get started at least planning before the holidays, because then the holidays happen and you're not going to make any decisions until January. And by January, a lot of places, you might have problems with availability depending on when your spring break falls. So really, give me a call in October or November and get some things nailed down so you can have an amazing, out of the box, super fun spring break next year. So that's it for this week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.